Hello and welcome back to another week of Sambo iRacing. We're back in the Ferrari 296 Challenge, this time at Interlagos for yet another track guide. And it's a special one because it's not me behind the wheel. It is 10,500 real-life racing driver and full-time driver coach Gianni Lutzu doing this lap because he is quite simply brilliant in this car. Any questions, do let me know in the comments. I'm going to do a hot lap, a breakdown lap, then we will be back in the cockpit one final time. The driving line on the track temps are shown in the bottom left-hand side of the screen, so you don't need to ask me about that though. Right, enjoy. So we're braking just before the 100 and holding it around 75% long on the brakes. Now trailing it off, back on the gas in third. Now we're going to do a lift to get through here. Back on the gas once again and a little lift. And now we go back on as we go through the end of turn 3. Track map hasn't the faintest clue where we are. Sorry about that. We're going to be braking for turn 4 midway between the 100 and the 200. And again, holding on the brakes quite long, back on the gas in third. We're going to go absolutely flat as we go through turn 5 here. Now for turn 6, we're going to get on the brakes about 5 car lengths before the marshal's hut, and again on the brakes to about 60%, trail it off, long trail off, very gently back on the throttle. Once we get to the outside of the track, on the brakes to about 55%. Shorter trail off this time, but still quite long on the brakes. We're in third, we're back on the brakes, light this time, and now we're getting back on the gas. Over to the left-hand side. Now again, just before we get to the tree, on the brakes to about 55%, and again, we're on the brakes for so long on this car. We're going to short shift up to fourth. Now a lift straight away and then back on the gas. We're going to brake final time at the start of that paving and again holding it around 60%. Now trailing it off, back on the gas in third. And we're going to go flat out to the final whistle, the start finish line. By the way, this is the real life livery of a car that is driven by one of Gianni Lutzu's real life clients, and isn't she a thing of beauty? Over and across the line we go. In a 1:30.3. The track temps are on the screen. You don't need to ask me about them. Everything else is fixed. We'll do the breakdown lap now. Okay, here we are on the breakdown lap. So our first braking marker is going to be just after the 150 on the right-hand side. So we're going to go through that and then immediately get on the brakes. And we're holding it initially at about 75%, still holding it all the way there until we go underneath that bridge. Now we're going to slowly start trailing it off in third gear. We want to have our left-hand tyres almost on the grass as we start picking up the throttle here. And we don't quite get up to 100%. It gets up to about 3/4 and then immediately a lift as we get into turn 2. Again, wanting to really cut the corner here, but keeping our left-hand tyres just on the track to avoid the off-track. And again, we get briefly up to 100%. We short shift up to fourth and then immediately we are back doing a little lift. Only to about 60-65% before finding full throttle again. Right, for turn 4, there is no 150 marker, so we have to sort of judge it, but we're getting on the brakes exactly where it would be, midway between the 200 and the 100. So as you can see, this is where we start braking, and again, we're holding it initially at around 65-75%, around there, wiping that speed off. Now we're going to trail it off in third, back on the gas right at the apex here with our left-hand tyres on the rumble strip. We get up to 100%. We want a really nice wide entry as we go into turn 5, and that'll let us take it out flat without hitting that grass. For turn 6, we want to be over on the left-hand side. Now, in most cars, you're braking roughly at where that marshal's hut is, but here we need to remember we're in the Ferrari Challenge. It has brake disc the size of a tea coaster, so we get on the brakes nice and early this time, and again, up to about 60%, and then a long trail off after that initial pressure, looking at the telemetry graph. Now we start picking back up on the gas, and we don't get up to 100% until we're more or less back on the rumble strip here on the right-hand side. As soon as we get over to the left-hand side and we get over onto this rumble strip here, we get on the brakes to about 50-55%, and again, holding it, releasing it nicely, and getting back on the gas at the apex in third. We don't get quite up to 100% before we're immediately back on the brakes, only to about 20%, and again, just a long hold on that before we pick back up on the gas in third. Right, nothing ever changes about this corner though, depending on the car that you're in. We're going to get on the brakes once we get into the middle of the track from where we are now pointing at that tree. And we get on the brakes to about 55%. And again, just a long old trail off. We start picking back up on the gas in third. Short shift up to fourth and then a little lift. And then we are back on the gas. Got one final braking marker, and that's just as we come off the rumble strip and onto this paved part in front of us. And as you can see there, so we are braking right at the end of the rumble strip, briefly up to about 65%, hold it there, and then we trail it off, and we start picking back up on the gas at the apex. There's no secret to it. It is just brake, release, back on the gas at apex. Right, so that will conclude a breakdown lap of the Ferrari 296 Challenge at Interlagos. We've got one final version coming up next with the driving line on and without me talking, so enjoy.